Pierre was weak in handling the situation. Jagmeet calls out Pierre for causing drama with reporter. Let's be clear, the reporter acknowledged he was at fault and apologized. Here's the clip.
Totally different question. Last week, Pierre Poilievre held a presser, a news conference, much like you're doing right now. At first, we were told as journalists that he wasn't going to take any questions. After some persistence from one of the journalists, he did take questions, but he called that journalist a liberal heckler. What do you think about that?
You know, I watched the video, and from one perspective, it sounded like someone was interrupting him. And then when I saw the cutaway, and this is an important thing for people to do, sometimes you see one view and it looks like, okay, maybe it was some heckling. And then I saw the full view of what happened, and it was just a question: are you going to take questions, or why aren't you taking questions? And it seemed a pretty normal thing, something that's happened to me before. People ask if I'm going to take questions. It seems like a pretty standard thing if I'm going to come before a group of folks, professionals whose job it is to write the news, that they're going to ask me some questions about my positions. I kind of expect that. And the fact that instead of taking questions or saying, no, I'm not going to take questions, simple answer, to make it into an attack seemed a bit weak as a response. Like, why not just say no, or say, yeah, I'll take questions? And so it seemed like a bit of a weak approach to then somehow make it into someone's partisan political position. And I think it's an example of a lack of the strength to be able to stand up and say what you want and defend your position.
Pierre gets heckled by David Akin, a global news reporter, during his presser. David Akin was not being bipartisan as a reporter, and when called out by the people, he issued an apology for his actions. Justin, Pierre and Jagmeet all have press conferences on how to tackle inflation in Canada. Here's the clip.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your presence here today. Before I begin, let me just say that thank you very much. I'm being heckled here by thank you very much for your congratulations. Thank you very much for your questions. I'm going to begin my remarks now.
But will you take some questions afterwards?
Justintrudeau is out of touch, and Canadians are out of money. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. $500 billion of inflationary deficits have bid up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest that Canadians pay. The cost for workers and businesses to produce the goods that we buy. On top of that, Trudeau proposes yet more spending to bid up costs even further. The more he spends, the more things cost. It is just inflation. Their homes and to buy a home in the very first place. The reason that so I mean, we have basically a liberal heckler who snuck in here today.
I'm a liberal heckler.
Well,
I work for Global News. I'm the chief political correspondent for that organization.
Are you going to let me make my mistake?
You may remember me from the guy who actually reported first on the Prime Minister breaking the law.
Yeah. Are you going to let me make my mistake?
We just like to ask a question. Say yes.
I've actually never seen you heckling the Prime Minister.
Ask Minister Baird back in the day.
The Prime Minister. Look, bottom line is this.
Are you going to take some questions at the end of this statement?
Yes, I'll be taking 2 questions at the very end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to start my statement again. Cost of government is driving up the cost of living. The more Trudeau spends, the more things cost. $500 billion of inflationary deficits mean more dollars bidding up the cost of the things we buy and the interest we pay. On top of that, inflationary taxes